Quindi questi documenti sono strumento per il risveglio.
So these documents are an instrument for a global awakening.
Quando usi questi documenti a livello energetico, tu li carichi.
When you use these documents at a more spiritual and energetic level, you charge these documents with your energy.
E quello è il vero potere del documento. La tua
This
energia.
is the real power of the documents.
Mm. Welcome to Mind the Shift, a podcast about a shifting world and shifting minds. My name is Anders Bolling. This episode is going to be about how this world is ruled at large and whether it's a humane or a more slavery-like system and how we might change it. We become so accustomed to the system in place, we mostly don't even consider the possibility that we could lead perfectly fine lives, maybe even better lives without governments or corporations as we know them. An entity called OPPT, One People's Public Trust, in 2012 took legal action to lawfully foreclose what was deemed the corporatized governments of the world. One of those who are deeply engaged in this initiative is the Italian artist, mother, researcher, and human being, Barbara Banco. And I shall say here that this talk is going to be a little bit different from most others because Barbara will be speaking Italian. So our conversation will be translated by Erika Dolci. And we are also joined by Marco Misinato, a composer and photographer who earlier joined the podcast in an earlier episode. So welcome to the show, Barbara, and welcome Erika and Marco. And I think you can now translate what I just said, Erika, please. You will.
Yes. Allora, ci dà il benvenuto, Barbara?
Vero, sarebbero molto migliori, ma in realtà siamo noi che dobbiamo esercitare il diritto di essere liberi.
This is true because our lives are better off without the governments, but it's on us to make our rights valuable.
Mm. Yes. So my first question would be, of course, because many of the listeners don't know about this legal action that was taken. I know that when it occurred, it led to, well, this action that led to the foreclosure of governments, banks, and corporations. That was in December of 2012. It gained some attention in some media, I know that, but for most people, I don't think it's very known. So, and it's been 8 years now. So can you please explain how this foreclosure was achieved?
Allora, dice che questo pignoramento...
Allora, intanto la gente non lo sa perché la divulgazione è stata fermata nel 2013-2014.
So people don't know this because the spreading of the news has been stopped in 2013.
È stata insabbiata,
It's been covered.
ma l'azione è a tuttora legale e legittima.
But the action is still today legal and lawful.
L'azione ha avuto origine nel 2011.
The action started in 2011
con una ricerca di mercato ordinata dalla Citibank a questi 3 trustee di OPPT.
with a research that has been asked by the Citibank to these trustees. And they found out that corporations were perpetrating slavery upon all human beings, all living men and women, through the trading of our birth certificates and so through the trading of our value.
Questi 3 signori, che Eder An Tucijaraf, Caleb Paul Skinner e Randall Ollie Hinner hanno
These three trustees,
12.
they created this trust, which was called One People's Public Trust, 1776, and they deposited it in 2012. So the first document that has been deposited was the final paradigm report. From there, they deposited other almost 50 documents. Every document is made to stop a particular side of the system, of the slavery system.
Nel ottobre e novembre 2012 sono stati depositati la preclusione delle banche e la preclusione dei governi e dei governi.
In October has been deposited the preclusion and the foreclosure of banks and governments. And in December, all the states have been foreclosed, and because they made slavery upon all human beings, all humanity.
Are you talking about December 2020?
2012, Dicembre 2012.
Yes,
Yes.
2012, okay.
2012.
So from that date, the 25th of December 2012, is the starting date of the 28th days they had to rebut this document. No one of the 195 states could rebut this report because they didn't have any proof that it wasn't true. They had been acting for almost 70 years in fraud upon all the humanity, all the humanity of the planet.
Maybe they didn't act because they thought it was just a gimmick, or they didn't take it seriously.
Tutti I certificati di nascita di tutto il mondo sono dentro la SEC.
Every birth certificate of all human beings are inside the SEC. Every government acts are registered within the SEC. Every time there's a government change, it's been recorded inside the SEC.
Quindi le prove erano lì, era impossibile rispondere.
They had all the proofs, so they couldn't rebut it. So they acted as a silence is like, if you don't rebut it, then you don't say anything. This becomes true. You validate this. So after 28 days, these documents became law.
Can you just explain where you filed this legal action? Because there is an entity that is called UCC, I think, where it was actually filed, and which is an actual entity that is used for commercial purposes. Where was it filed? And this is a formal thing, isn't it?
Sono stati registrati nel pubblico registro UCC di Washington DC.
They've been filed in the public register UCC of Washington DC.
Dentro la SEC americana. Dentro la SEC.
Inside of the American SEC. With the American SEC.
Security
when you say
SEC,
are you saying sect or SEC? What's the word you use?
Security Exchange Commission.
Okay, thank you.
E da lì è partito.
From there, it started the foreclosure of every single state on paper, every single government. This means it has been cancelled from birth. For Italy, it's in 1934, for example. For every government and state, it's the same thing. It starts from the beginning of their birth. So every action from their birth till today, they are cancelled and void. After the foreclosure, the global foreclosure started. And the foreclosure merged into one fund, which is called One People.
A nome, è stato messo, questo fondo è a nome di Eternal Essence.
This fund is a name of Eternal Essence. Every one of us is eternal essence embodied.
So the general point is that we don't have any, according to this legal action that you mean is now international law, and that we, by this, don't have any legally any governments ruling us anymore or any corporations ruling us anymore. So we are just free individuals who are only answering to the creator, so to speak. Is that the general point of this whole?
Esatto, esattamente, è così. Nessun intermediario.
That's exactly what happened. We don't have any intermediary anymore.
So we are the creator, and we decide the extent of freedom that we want to embrace.
In responsabilità personale illimitata.
In full personal responsibility.
So can I ask you, who are what is the One People's Public Trust? You mentioned that it was first created in 1776, and who did it then, and who are the OPPT now? I guess there are different layers to that, but can you explain a little bit more?
Allora, il trust si chiama OPPT 1776, ma è stato istituito nel 2012, quindi non...
So the trust is called One People's Public Trust, and it's been made in 2012. Where there's no other trust made before in 1776, but this date refers to the American Constitution.
Okay. So it's just an inspirational year that is being used. Okay, I understand. Yes, I misunderstood.
È solo una cosa ispirazionale, il nome, di ispirazione. They changed the American Constitution in 1781.
Yeah.
È stato tolto il 13° emendamento.
The 13th Amendment has been cut off. The 13th Amendment was saying that there was no slavery. The slavery ended for every human being.
È stato ripristinato nel 2013.
They put it back in 2013.
Maggio 2013.
May 2013.
2013? Okay.
13, yes.
Mm-hmm. You call you have taken this initiative. You call the governments corporate governments, corporatized governments. Most people would differ between governments and corporations, and would say that they are different things and they are opposed to each other oftentimes. But this is not your way of looking at it. What do you mean by corporate governments? Can you explain that?
Aziende private che utilizzano quello che noi chiamiamo stati per emettere i certificati i bond sui certificati di nascita. Quindi fanno la stessa cosa.
They are private law, they are private companies, and they use the states to use our birth certificates. So the governments issue our birth certificates, for example, the Republic of Italy, in our case. But these birth certificates are then issued as a bond for the value of every person.
Quindi sono la stessa cosa.
They are the same thing.
So corporations and governments are actually the same thing, and it's an illusion to think that they are different entities.
Sì, perché il bond viene emesso in realtà.
Yes, because the birth certificate is issued by the Corporation Italy Republic of. The Republic of Italy, the government, administer it, and living men and women, they should be the beneficiaries of these bonds.
Okay. Yes, I understand. So here's a broad, maybe, or do you want to add anything?
Ancora.
Vuoi aggiungere qualcosa?
Sì. Invece, quando nasciamo,
so when we are born, the government declares us lost at sea, and so we are dead for them, and they give back these certificates to the corporation.
Collusione si chiama.
It's collusion.
Mm. It sounds to most people, I think, as a conspiracy theory, which has no foundation. But I suppose you have a foundation for this.
Well, the foundation, you can find the foundation on the Bolle Papali.
It's also with the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. The procedure is there.
This is something you can find, people can find, for instance, on the internet, or do they have to search for it?
The documents are all filed, and you can find them in the SEC, with the SEC of Washington, D.C.
Hmm.
In that register, after OPPT, you cannot file anything else anymore. To be able to exist with the consent of the people, they had to create a clone of UCC, and now you deposit your files inside the London deposit, which is called UCC1. UCC1.
Quindi
you can find the whole procedure. We can send you a link as well where you can find all the documents filed inside the SEC.
Yes,
poi puoi controllare tu che ci siano dentro la SEC.
You can search and find all the documents. After the foreclosure, Heather Tucci-Jarraf created something different. The documents of IM and the new governance. These documents haven't been deposited anywhere.
Perché non c'è nessuna parte dove depositare.
Because there's nowhere to deposit them.
Non esiste più.
The governments they don't exist anymore.
No, I understand. So, but yeah, we'll come back to the future of governance, how the world is supposed to be ruled in the future. But first, I have a broader, maybe philosophical question about this this action and this way of doing things. Why go about? Erika, you will have to bear with me. I think you can hear the whole question first, and then you can translate the general meaning of it. Why go about doing this in such a formal way? In my view, it sounds very formal, because I mean, I can sympathize with the idea that we don't need governments, we don't need leaders. I think that's very sympathetic, but why not await a general, awakening that will organically lead to crumbling governments and a new, more humane world order anyway? Or should I or one see legal action more as a symbol, a metaphor for what is occurring anyway, the awakening?
Questa azione è stato un segno potentissimo per il risveglio generale.
This action has been a powerful sign for a global awakening. In these documents are mentioned the soul, the eternal essence embodied, the creation, the first creator. So these documents are an instrument for a global awakening. When you use these documents at a more spiritual and energetic level, you charge these documents with your energy.
E quello è il vero potere del documento.
This is the real power of the documents. So everything that's happening today, it's also because they cannot use or value anymore as a mean for to their money, to issue the money, the value.
Per questo le banche stanno morendo.
That's why our banks are dying.
Okay.
Okay. I just read
Marco, vuoi dire qualcosa?
See, this OPPT is not one or the other. It's part of the process of awakening. is part of what is occurring right now, and is one of the many tools that we can use in order to move forward towards the awakening.
So would you say that these documents or this legal action that has been filed now is more to be seen as a metaphor, a symbol, than an actual document that we will need in the future?
No, questa è un'azione legale, è legittima.
It's a legal and lawful action.
È un fatto accaduto.
It's a fact that happened for real, which helps with its existence to help to support the awakening of the old planet. Because when you use these documents, you are saying that you take back your full responsibility and your power that we always have given to others. So we use we use our consent with courage, not in my name. You don't do this in my name.
Maybe it's fair to say that the powers that be, as we often call them, I mean, you talk about they and they and they. It's very difficult to know who are they, but I guess you're referring to the powers that be, and it might be a certain amount of people ruling the world. Anyway, it might be that it's not possible to topple this order of things, to change this order of things without using the same kind of tools as these powers have been using themselves to control us. Is that a correct interpretation?
Allora, per chiuderlo è stato usato esattamente il loro stesso sistema e era l'unico modo.
To foreclose it, they had to use their same system they are using. It was the only way to do it. Today, the system belongs to eternal essence, and so now we can use it as we wish to. It's not the system that is wrong, but it is how we use it.
Okay.
There is a requirement at this time of shifting. We need to shift from a linear thinking to an holistic thinking. Because if you
dobbiamo spostarci da un pensiero lineare a un pensiero più olistico.
Because if you continue to address the problem from linearity, you continue to use the same frequencies that have been created by the problem itself.
Mm.
Therefore, we need to shift out of that. In order to resolve a problem, you need to raise up your frequencies to a higher level of thinking. You cannot use the same thinking that has created the problem. And the OPPT provide this is a tool that helps you to provide the gaining of these frequencies.
This is interesting because it leads me to a question I had about a book I just read by Rutger Bregman. He's a Dutch historian. It's called Humankind, and it's about this mindset that Marco and Barbara is talking about. Mindset, that this book reveals a false narrative about a selfish humanity, you know, human beings being unreliable and selfish if they are not controlled, if there are no laws. If we take away the laws, there will be chaos, and this is perfect for the power to say it, to tell people that it is like this. But Rutger Bregman discloses in his book that it's a lie. It isn't like that. People are kind, and people want to help each other. And I don't know what the question is, but is this your initiative here? Is it partly about stepping out of that illusion and letting people be their true, responsible, and loving selves?
Assolutamente sì. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. It is not true that we are not governed by laws if there are no governments. We are governed by natural laws and universal laws which are not written. And they are the only true laws that are valid for every one of us. And this helps you to take full responsibility for yourself. Because it's the nature in form of the first creator that is there to respond to every action. It's even more dangerous if you do things that you're not supposed to.
That's
No, gli
beautiful.
uomini sono responsabili, se sono liberi sono responsabili.
If men are free, they are responsible for themselves. Men that live in poverty, in lack of something, they need to rob or do unlawful acts.
Credo molto negli uomini.
I believe in men. I really believe in human,
Yes.
in living men and women.
Yes.
Beautiful. So let me ask you a little bit about who are they, the so-called they, the powers. If I say I think the human beings working as ministers in governments and authority bosses, I think they are there. I think that they think they are there because simply it's because of the results of free general elections. Would you say that I'm naive when I say that?
No, sono, se sono uomini e donne difficilmente si comportano così.
If they act as living men and women, they don't act unlawfully or illegally, but they think they are protected by an entity which is superior. We can call it deep state or Italian masonry or Chinese mafia. But they are all the same 4 or 5 persons who govern everyone.
So who are those?
Chi sono questi?
Qualcuno crede e pensa che siano non terrestri.
Someone believes they are non-terrestrial beings.
Qualsiasi cosa siano,
Whatever they may be,
si devono spostare davanti agli uomini e le donne vive e lasciarci passare.
they need to leave they need to step behind before us.
La guerra è finita, Anders.
The war is over.
Okay.
So 2012 was a crucial year. I know the many were talking about the pivotal meaning of the end of the Mayan calendar, and you filed or deposited this legal document in 2012. Do you think that was a year when things shifted?
È successo la fine del mondo, quello politico, economico e religioso.
The end of the world really happened. The world economic, the economic world, the spiritual world, because the Vatican is another private company and corporation.
When you said spiritual world, you meant the religious world, or?
Yes, religious.
Okay.
Religious. No, la spiritualità è un'altra cosa.
Altra cosa.
It's something else.
Yes. This initiative about dissolving is it about dissolving all governments or only what you call corporate governments? Is there a difference there? Are there governments or ruling entities in this three-dimensional matrix that are okay, so to speak, or so you can differ from the corporatized governments and others that are better, or are they all the same?
Gli unici 5 governi che erano fuori dalla SEC nel 2012.
The only 5 governments that weren't inside the SEC in 2012, they went in the fall. They were foreclosed as well. Yes, for an economic reason, for a commercial exchange. It's over. There's no one there anymore. What we see are only ghosts, and they continue to act because of the consent of the people who don't know.
And you put a lot of significance into what happened in 1913 when the United States Federal Reserve was created, and also the year 1933 when when the United States government, as you say, was corporatized. So would you say that the world, this three-dimensional world that we live in, still had true governments, real governments, better governments before those years, before 1933 or before 1913? What are your thoughts on that, and what's your explanation here?
Esistevano gli amministratori del trust sull'anima emesso dalle bolle papali.
What existed were the administrator of the bonds emitted on our birth certificates. There has never been a real government, a real state of rights or social rights. It's always been only slavery.
So what's the significance of the creation of the US Federal Reserve in 1913, for instance?
Il significato della creazione della Federal Reserve è che è proprio all'interno della Federal Reserve che finiscono i nostri bond.
The meaning of the creation of the Federal Reserve is that all our bonds merge into the Federal Reserve. So, in 2017, American people could have access. They had access to their bond inside the Federal Reserve through the ID card. So now the Federal Reserve has become national bank for America. Federal Reserve, puoi ripetere, Barbara?
Gli Stati Uniti d'America come corporazione sono usciti a febbraio di quest'anno e sono poi rientrati subito.
So the United States as a corporation, they exit the Federal Reserve and they came back in this year. So it exit as US and it entered back as a, come Barbara?
Repubblica degli Stati Uniti d'America.
Republic of United States of America.
Questo comunque non è legale.
This is not legal anyway, because the action has been made by a foreclosed and precluded corporation, private corporation. And the Republic of United States of America is also a corporation inside the SEC, so it's the same thing. This has been made to apply Nezara and Jazara in the world, but Nezara and Jazara are inside of the foreclosure of all the governments of one people. It's still in dishonor and prejudice, as the law say. Their law says.
Non è cambiato niente. Non esiste.
Nothing has changed. They don't exist.
So let's talk a little bit about what is happening now. What will now replace the old matrix? There is something called the IUV exchange. I don't know what that is. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sì. Allora, nei documenti di OPPT.
Inside of the documents filed by Heather, she left us.
Heather, we have to explain. I don't think we have mentioned Heather. She was one of the initiators.
Il procuratore americano il trustee di OPPT.
Heather is one of the 3 trustees of OPPT, the trust.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
So she left us with as beneficiaries of this fund. So as Eternal Essence, we are the disponent of the bank system, of the whole bank system. The IUV exchange is the last document that has been filed inside the SEC. Inside the UCC, sorry. It's the document that the allow is not the right term because we do exchange our value anyway. So with these documents, we tell the system that it doesn't exist anymore, and we decide how to exchange our value. And we do it through the Bank for International Regulations. Its headquarters is in Basilea, and today is already deciding all the regulation for the whole bank system. From now on, we tell them which regulation they need to issue. All the bank and economic system worldwide is declared free and iniquity by eternal essence.
È l'inizio della fine dell'utilizzo della moneta.
It's the beginning of the end of the use of the money exchange. We all have inside the sack, after the foreclosure, 5 billion in gold and 5 billion in silver.
Tutti.
Every one of us. No one's excluded.
Il denaro non ha più senso.
So the money doesn't have any sense anymore. We will send you the document IUV exchange so you can understand better how to do this thing.
Yes, I didn't understand if the IUV, firstly, what does it stand for? What does it stand for, IUV?
Qual è l'acronimo di IUV?
Io, valore universale, io scambio di valore universale.
Universal Value Exchange.
Okay. And when you said that we tell them now what to do, who are we? Is that the OPPT telling the IUV exchange what to do with the banking system?
Noi è.
We is.
We the people.
We the people is.
Only un solo popolo.
One people.
Yes, Anders, I'm sure you experience on your daily basis that there is constantly demands from an outside authority that you can do things like this, you cannot do this, you have to pay for this, you cannot do this. So there is a way that you can name it in the way you want it, but it is dictating our reality.
Vero?
Yeah,
Sono
yes.
I governi.
I actually got a claim from the tax authorities yesterday. They wanted me to pay about 250 euros that I hadn't paid last year. And that was for, it wasn't the tax authority, really. I don't know the name of it, but it was because I apparently hadn't paid a couple of bills. I can't even remember. So I mean, I just remember now because you said, Marco, that there are entities out there controlling you financially, so you can't live your life. And yes, you can feel that every day. Actually, there's always something.
And they are closing more and more our freedom. It's like the metaphor of the frog that is in the water.
Yeah.
And it's being cooked very slowly. So when she's cooked, it's too late, right?
Noi stiamo usando questi documenti per proteggerci dalle multe.
We are using these documents to protect ourselves from fines, from laws, from mortgages, and from foreclosure of our houses.
So how can people in practice now, exercise their new freedom and rebut, for example, what we are talking about here, rebut financial claims?
Può tirarsi fuori dal sistema con I documenti di Io Sono.
With the documents of I Am, they place themselves outside of the system. They can use the instruments, the tools of the new governments to regulate their lives, to protect what we have built so far in our lives, to create new projects and use them to make
Con
them
il
in
valore,
practice with
con
the
il nostro
value,
valore.
with our value. And when the corporation come to us and they want to vex us, from our point of view, which is out of the system, we reply that every claim, every government, and every institution are foreclosed and null and void. They need to prove that they exist.
Quindi in qualche modo abbiamo gli strumenti per svegliarci.
So we have all the tools that we need to awaken us.
Sia dal punto di vista spirituale, sia dal punto di vista materiale.
From both a spiritual point of view and also a material point of view.
Okay?
Yes, because the civil servants that are working for these the government authorities and corporations, they will not accept that you say that they don't exist. So you will end up in legal problems, perhaps. How should one react to that?
Allora, intanto c'è anche un ordine militare, un military order, un ordine militare di arresto del sistema schiavistico.
There's a military order, which is another document, which says that they need to arrest all the slavery systems. This document stops lots of vexations, but it's on us that it's us that charge these documents with our energy. They need to tell us why they don't accept this. With a duly verified and declared statement that they exist under the law and the penalty of fraud, commercial fraud.
So the burden of proof is on the side of the governments and the corporations and the authorities.
Quindi loro hanno il dovere della prova, queste autorità
Esatto.
hanno il dovere. Yes,
No.
that's right.
Loro.
It's on them.
In my experience, I think. Do you want to say something, Marco?
Yeah, when they interact with you, they see you as a fictitious. The system always addresses you as a fictitious entity, as a merchandise. And so if you respond accordingly to their way to approach you, then you validate the system, and then you enter the legality of the game, and then you agree to play the game, and then of course they probably win over you. But if you say, hey, wait a minute, I am not a fictitious entity, I am a soul, I'm a living human. Can you see me? I am alive. So I don't recognize you as an authority anymore. I don't play this game anymore. And here's the military order that gives you an executive order, but I don't participate anymore in this game.
È una questione di giurisdizione.
It's a matter of jurisdiction.
Non hanno giurisdizione sugli uomini, non lo possono avere.
They don't have any jurisdiction over living men. They cannot have it.
Perché l'uomo è pre-giuridico e pre-statale.
Because man is pre-juridic and pre-statal.
Viene prima della legge, prima degli stati.
It is before the law and the states. It is created before
la legge scritta, chiaramente.
The written law.
So to me, this talk about documents and all that, legal documents for closing governments, it's very fascinating and interesting, but it's a new concept to me. I can just say that in my personal experience, I think that when you're not afraid and when you consider what's going on around you, the drama, as a stage play, and you're not scared, your life runs more smoothly and you actually have less problems with money and all that. So it seems like it's a state of mind that you need to reach. Sorry.
Sicuramente sì.
This is true, but it's also true that this is our ordinary life. Our taxes, the loans to pay, this is part of life. And all of this in reality is null and void.
Quindi si vive anche meglio così.
You live even better with these documents.
Yes, I can understand that. But as I said, it's to me it's a new concept. But anyway, it's fascinating. So what do you think will happen now? When do you think we will actually see governments crumbling and dissolving, and also corporations?
Quando Quando esercitiamo il nostro diritto, esattamente in quel momento non esistono più per me, per te o per chiunque lo fa di esercitare il diritto.
Every time you exercise your right, in that moment, the governments and the corporation, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah. Maybe we should think, as Marco said, less linear about this and just see everything is happening at the same time anyway.
What's happening is that we've been for thousands of years like the sheep and the shepherd kind of relationship, and we felt that that's life, that's how it is. And because there is energies that are coming to facilitate the awakening, we're starting remembering that we actually are not sheep. And so we are starting to look at the shepherd and say, who are you? And why do you decide that we cannot go outside of the fence? What is this fence anyway about? What is this about? You know, we are starting to awakening. And so we are starting to questioning a game that has been going on for several thousand years, and now the game is over because it gave us a wonderful experience, but now it's time for us to move on out of the fence.
Sì, è così, ma il cambiamento avviene dentro.
But the shift comes from the inside. It's like we give ourselves a permission to remember who we already are with these documents.
Can I ask you?
Marco, stai senza audio.
It's like these documents are saying, wait a minute, here's written that I'm not a sheep, I'm actually a tiger.
Yes.
Actually, and it resonates. This idea brought me some memory about this idea. Yeah. I mean, it might be true that I'm a tiger, you know?
Yeah.
Sono un percorso.
They are a journey.
Yeah. Can I ask you, the ones who are into this now and actively filing these documents and trying to legally foreclose governments and all that, are you people doing this in your actual life? Are you countering official people who come to you with claims and things like that? Are you doing this? For you, Barbara, for instance, are you doing this on an everyday basis?
Certo, ma non sono la sola.
Yes, I am using them, and I'm not the only one. This morning, we had a meeting with an international group, and they are using these documents all over the world. In 2013, we were 5,000 people using this document.
50 million people.
50.000, Barbara?
Milioni.
O 50 milioni? 50 million people.
Oh.
Even
50
better.
million. In 2013, what about now?
E adesso?
50 milioni più tutti quelli che lo sanno. Adesso.
50 million people plus everyone who knows it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Do you want to? I don't have any more questions written down here, but it's all very fascinating. Barbara? Do you want to add anything that you think is very important for the listeners to know about this initiative?
Sì, che siamo liberi.
Yes, that we are free.
Ora aspetta a noi reclamare ed esercitare il nostro diritto.
Now it's on us to claim and exercise our rights.
Nessuno può farlo per noi.
No one can do it for us because we are in full personal responsibility and unlimited responsibility.
Quindi basta delegare.
So stop giving ourselves the power, our power.
E basta accumulare.
Stop giving other people our power and stop accumulating.
Basta.
Stop.
Marco, aggiungi tu?
Well, I mean, Barbara already said it all. We are in a process of a huge transition where we are going back to the original condition of humanity, which was about full responsibility, full sovereignty, and full freedom. And so, again, these documents are just permission slips, are like modules that give us trigger in us the possibility to give us ourselves permission to be what we already are. And so it's all our work, internal work, and we have to step out from the victim perpetuator dance, and we have to own our own responsibility and become neutral, meaning stop reacting to what is happening outside with our lower emotions and stay centered in our soulfulness state of being. And then through there, we will be able to pass through the old dream to the new one.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yes. Where can people now, I mean, I will definitely post links in the introduction text to the episode, but just to state here also, where can people most easily find information about this OPPT and this foreclosure of governments?
Il nostro sito si chiama noieisono.com.
There's our website, which is called millennia-old.com. From there, you can find all the documents and all the experience of the people who are using these documents. You can find the documents in English language as well.
Okay.
Very good. Very good. Okay. If you don't want to add anything, I just have to say thank you very, very much for this fascinating and interesting conversation with 4 people. I think we managed to do this, actually. It was nice. A bit Zen-like, like you said, Marco, when you have a translator, but that can be a good thing. So thank you, Barbara, thank you, Erika, and thank you, Marco, for joining us today here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your work, Anders. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.